What's been your worst investment across time?
Probably the worst one was only last year, I think. What's going up in value in the startup world doesn't necessarily translate into public markets. This is a roller coaster ride, to say the least. It's hard. I just didn't reach out and get advice early enough, like I should have, and that would be my advice to my younger self. That would be my advice to anyone. I realized at a point that no one taught me about money. I really have a passion to help other girls and women find financial independence.
What character traits and qualities do you look for in an entrepreneur?
The most important thing is just that
Private markets investments are investors can find some real value. I find the best way to learn is learn from someone who's done it before and given it a go. Hi, I'm Travis Miller, host of Grow Your Wealth podcast. Thanks for joining me here today. On these podcast sessions, we're going to talk through how certain investors have navigated the bumpy road of investing, whether it be through business or investments in general. Thanks for listening today.
Welcome to Grow Your Wealth podcast, your go-to show for insights on unlocking success in the world of business and finance. I'm your host, Travis Miller, and today we have a special guest, Jodie Imam, co-founder and co-CEO of Tractor Ventures, a fintech innovator empowering founders with access to alternative capital. Jodie is also non-executive director of Private Media Group, which is known for publications like Smart Company and Crocky, and her impact can be seen at SBE Australia, where she led a team dedicated to accelerating innovative female leaders. Jodie's entrepreneurial spirit shines through her contributions to Innovation Bay community, mentoring and supporting startup founders on their journey from idea to IPO. She also co-founded Occasional Butler, which later merged with Airtasker and served as general manager for renowned Australian fashion designer Leona Edmiston through a period of extensive growth. Her journey is a testament to the transformative power of innovation, community building, and strategic leadership in the business world. Stay tuned as we delve deeper into Jodie's insights, experience, and strategies. Thanks, Jodie, for joining us here today. What would be great to kick off with is just a little bit of your background, short and sharp. How did it all start?
Well, thanks for having me, Travis. I guess short and sharp. I grew up in Western Sydney. I did uni there. I did a Bachelor of Commerce, and then I sort of got pumped into the corporate world. Back when I didn't really ask questions about things, I just went along. Spent 3.5 years for two big multinational technology companies until it was just killing my soul. I couldn't survive the corporate world. So then I ran away and joined the fashion industry and was there for a lot longer than I expected, actually. But yeah, it was such rapid growth and every year was different and we were doing so many wonderful things. And then I started having babies and really that was the time I wanted to finally start my own business. And so, that was when we started Occasional Butler, which we sold 3.5 years later to Airtasker. Also started one of Melbourne's first co-working spaces at the same time, so back in 2012. So both of them were kind of new ideas before people were almost ready for them.
Gotcha.
There's a whole period of education on them. Anyway, did a whole lot of ecosystem work after selling Occasional Butler, and that's when I met Matt and April Allen, my co-founders, and we started Tractor in 2020.
Gotcha. That's a very short, sharp background. We go a step back. So we start at uni. Yeah. How did you enjoy uni?
I found uni, actually, I did. I had a great time, but it was challenging. I think, you're sort of thrown into the wild, and I found, it was a bit hard to sort of adjust initially, but then, It was great.
What did you study at uni?
Commerce marketing.
Yeah, got you. Finding when chatting to people, it's always the social side of going to university people find as important as the sort of education they pick up on the way through.
Oh, definitely. I think it's the discipline that you have to learn. That's the really strong thing. It doesn't really matter what you're actually learning. Yeah,
gotcha. And just talking about your early career, can you go into a little bit of detail about that? Because part of today is understanding sort of your background, how you got to where you are today, and then obviously about your work experience, but starting with early career.
Yeah. So I think, that those corporate years, they were great. And I travelled and I lived in London for a year of that. And It was really great. But I was at Ericsson, and it was 2001, and Ericsson was selling a lot of phones back at that
Oh,
time.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I remember.
And so it was kind of happy days, but they were still trying to be efficient, so they made a whole lot of redundancies. I would have been about 23, and there was some people I was working with that had been there for 30 years, and suddenly they were like, "What am I going to do now?" And really quite devastated by it. And that's when that sort of seed started of me knowing that I couldn't rely on a corporate for my own financial independence. So that's when it clicked that I had to. I'll have to start my own business and make my own money.
Yeah, I mean, it's the key. Like being a founder myself, it is the key, right? It's one thing you do have is absolute control, right? You kind
Yeah,
of control your destiny for for good or bad.
yeah, that's
So
right.
no one's going to come along and say you've no longer got a job. Sort of,
Yeah,
it's in your control.
exactly.
And during that period, was there any sort of mentors, anyone you looked up to during that period?
Well, I mean, the other thing that was going on was, women didn't have senior roles, and the ones that did, they kind of really dressed and acted like men.
Yeah,
And so I was seeing that, and they were quite, there weren't many spots, so there was no support at all. Like those women wanted to hold on to those spots; they didn't want to
yeah,
create opportunity for others because there wasn't
yeah,
opportunity for others. And that was the other thing that kind of stayed with me too, that I just didn't want to be those women. Like I knew I wanted to be a mum, and I knew that and a lot of them weren't mums, and I just thought, like, that's not where I want to go.
yeah. I mean, again, it's another thing that running your own business can control your time as well,
Yeah, that's
particularly
right.
if you've got young
Yes.
children.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
no, that's great. Can you share 2 or 3 pivotal moments that led you to where you are today?
Yeah, so I definitely think that redundancy, that moment at Ericsson was a pivotal moment. Selling occasional butler was definitely another one. Like we got a lot of press with that. It was really good timing for Airtasker because they were raising some like this around and bringing in some Asian investors, and so that was like it was a huge story, and that sort of propelled me into the ecosystem and
Gotcha.
those roles. So I think that was a moment. And then I was thinking about this. I think setting up Innovation Bay actually is probably so. I knew Ian Gardner, and then I met Faden, and they were wanting to set up, like, sort of have a franchise of Innovation Bay, and so I took on the license to set it up. And at the time, I I kind of thought, yeah, like I had my third kid at home, just born, and I thought, oh no, I can probably do this. It's one event a month, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
But it was actually like it's a lot of work running events
yeah,
and building that community from scratch pretty much as
yeah,
well. But what it did was it forced me to be out networking like all the time. And that's sort of something I've kept up. And so that's
yeah.
how I met Matt originally. And so
Gotcha,
that definitely, if I hadn't done that, I would have met Matt, wouldn't be here.
gotcha. Yeah, very good. Tell us a bit about Occasional Butler.
Yeah, so it was a marketplace for getting small jobs done around the home and office, and it was based out of our own need.
Yeah,
My ex-husband and I at the time, we were building a house in Annandale in Sydney. We were on a tight budget. We were just trying to get help with just smaller things, and we were learning all about collaborative consumption and the sharing economy out of the
yeah,
US. And so and TaskRabbit was one of the first of this sort of type of business. And so we're like, oh my God, that's brilliant. That's the model we want to adopt. We went ahead and just built the platform. We did it all the wrong way. Like I I never advise founders to do it this way. It was very much a build it and they will come idea,
yeah.
but it wasn't. That's not how you do it. But we got there in the end and learned a lot. And the thing was that people didn't trust their neighbours at the
Yeah,
start
wow.
come and do stuff. Like
Yeah.
it was just a real trust thing. Now it's very normal, but
Mm,
back then it was just so new that it took a long time to sort of
yeah.
to get back
That's
building up.
gotcha. Because that's yes, that seems early mover. What year was roughly that?
2011.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it
for
was
sure.
early. It was very early. Actually, we launched just before Airtasker launched.
Yeah,
And there was one other company, Taskbox, I think, that had just launched.
yeah.
Yeah, so it was very early.
I think Freelancer was probably around that time as well. I remember
Freelancer
sort of,
was, yeah. And actually, I met Delia Timms, which was another pivotal moment for me, actually, getting
yeah,
a mentor. And she had created Find a Babysitter. So there was some early sort of,
yeah.
yeah, businesses.
Hey, if you're enjoying this, please subscribe on whatever platform you're using. It helps us build a community. We want to educate investors, and this is what it's all about.
And now, so I think you've kind of gone through in the previous question, but is there three people that you could pick that would, most influenced you and why, and maybe just some of those personality traits that you respect personally? That's maybe younger people, here can maybe help them as they advance their career.
Yeah. So I think it's a tough one. There's probably so many, but I do remember Cyan Taid, who's one of the co-founders of Envato, having a huge impression on me. Like, and it was the reason was because I actually saw a role model. I actually saw a woman who was a family, like a mum, and had built this big company with a fantastic culture. And yeah, I think that's someone, I like. I think she's definitely influenced me to continue on this path and continue, embracing my own style of leadership as well.
Gotcha. And Matt's obviously your partner at
Yeah,
Tractor. You've
yeah.
got you've got to mention him, don't you?
Yes, Travis. I was just about to do that. He's definitely, and he very much. We know each other very well, obviously, and he very much influences me, and he'll give me the hard feedback quite often.
Yeah,
Sometimes brutally, but it's good. It helps.
yeah. It speeds things up, right?
That's right.
The hardest thing is having a conversation and trying to work out what they actually mean. If they just told you what they meant,
Oh, he's very straight talking.
make everyone's life easier.
This
Now
morning,
you've had it.
he actually told me I was being really dumb about something. Like, okay, that is very simple. Yes, I'm being dumb.
It's all in the delivery, though, right? You can be direct and polite at the same time. So
Yeah, yeah,
that's the science.
that's right. Yeah. The other one I had was Brene Brown. Again,
Gotcha.
just that style of, she's very inspirational and being able to get out there and just talk, in a very real, vulnerable way. And I do that a lot, and it is powerful.
Yeah, gotcha. Now you've had a varied career. What is the biggest shift? And again, I mentioned earlier some of these overlap, but biggest shift made in your career that brought you where you are.
Yeah, I mean, probably, I guess the biggest has been a lot, and it has been varied. But I think the biggest probably would be the selling occasional butler, like because
Yeah,
that really did. Yeah, that's helped, and it helps every day. I talk to founders every day, and I can talk to them and understand them with real empathy because I've been there on that whole
yeah, for
journey.
sure. Yeah, for sure. Allows you to have that empathy when you're having a bad day as a founder.
Sometimes lately as well, like I've had founders just want to call and chat and just say I'm having a really tough time mentally. Like, can you talk to me?
Yeah,
And
for
we
sure.
absolutely want to do that because it can be lonely.
Yeah. Sometimes people just want someone to listen to them. Really,
And
either
just
to
say, you know what, I was there too. Like it's normal.
yeah, for sure. Now, what's worked and what hasn't worked? Just bumps in the road, and what have been the learnings?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, taking the approach of building out this platform. Like we spent a year, 3 months scoping, 6 months building out this platform for occasional butler without one conversation with a potential customer at all.
Yeah,
Like, we just felt we knew what our customers would want. We built all these features. We just to such detail, and then find out once we launch it that we had to undo a lot of them and add other ones
Mm.
in, and just such a waste of resources.
Yeah,
And so just that very much that MVP advice
yeah,
is what I would say. And the other thing too, like with the co-working space, we nearly sold that right before COVID hit, and we didn't sell it in the end because the landlord increased the rent. It was all sold. We had the buyers. It was all done, and then and we found the best buyers for it as well. And the landlord had said nothing's fundamentally going to change with the lease, and it's going to be a new 9-year lease, and it's going to be great for them. And then right at the last minute, he put the rent up by 80%.
wow.
And it just obviously killed the deal.
Yeah,
And then a few months later, we had to shut it down because of
wow.
lockdown. So that was Yeah, that was brutal. And I guess my learnings from that is, because we were going to sell it earlier, and we didn't. We held off, so probably held off too long. And also, you know, ideally, you don't want to be 100% in the hands of someone else.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
you had that control to totally kill the deal. So yeah.
Gotcha. Now, going to Tractor Ventures, where did the idea for Tractor come from?
Yeah.
Um, where did your first, capital come from? Obviously, you took on some investors and equity perspective,
Yeah.
and who supported you along the way. So it's three pronged question.
Yeah. So, I mean, Matt originally had the idea, and that was sort of off the back of, all the businesses he's run, recruiting early on in this tech ecosystem and then at AWS. And so he was one of the first BD guys at AWS. And so his job was to talk to all the founders and try to give them credits.
Yeah.
And so in that, he really saw glaringly just what a gap there was in funding for founders. So we called Tractor Ventures because of this analogy about rockets and tractors. So the rockets are very exciting and some of them land on the moon, but they're also very expensive and a lot of them blow along the way. Whereas a tractor, more sustainable, growing at a sustainable pace. And if you said to a farmer, "I'm sorry, we're going to take away your tractor,"
Yeah.
she or he is probably going to be pretty upset about it. Like, they pretty much rely on that technology, and so they're the customers that we want to help. And like one in 200 or whatever it is of people that talk to a VC will get funded. But what happens to the other 199? There's a lot of other way, like companies that just either won't fit that model, or don't want to.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying this episode. If you want to learn more about alternative assets, there's a book here you can read, How You Grow Your Wealth with Alternative Assets. Now back to the episode.
Yeah, I mean, the first point I'll comment is a tractor. I'm a part-time farmer myself. I just love my tractor. It just literally goes along, chugs along slowly.
Yeah.
But it always does the job. So I like the business name.
Yeah.
And then second piece, I totally agree. As a founder, you don't want you want to minimize your dilution over time.
Exactly.
And the product that you have helps, early stage companies grow
That's right.
without dilution or otherwise minimizing dilution. So
That's
business
right.
model makes sense.
Yeah. It's effectively a loan, and so we can lend to companies, from as early as when they've got about $15,000 in revenue a month. So pretty early on, and we can continue to fund and support. And it's very useful for sort of that short-term return on investment stuff, where if you just put $1 in, $4 will spit out, or if you just put another salesperson in, you'll get more revenue. It works so well. And actually, a lot of our founders are using both, but at least they're not having to dilute as much.
For sure. Yeah, it's a combination of.
Yeah.
I can see how it works as an additional product effectively, other than just purely raising equity, which historically, debt has not been available until you're further down until maybe you're a growth capital type stage. And VC and seed, historically, it's been tough.
Yeah.
And this next question is digging a little bit deeper into the same topic, but what do you do differently, and why do you do what you do? And this is relative to Tractor Ventures.
Yeah. Did you want me to tackle the other prongs of that first question, the investment?
Yeah, for sure.
Because we've been backed by some amazing investors. So our first raise, we sort of had two customers to test that there was an appetite, and then we went and raised $2 million. And we've got some amazing, exited founders that have just really wanted to see this work as well. So people like Simon Griffiths from Who Gives a Crap. We've got Kate Morris, for example, for Adore Beauty. We've got Build Kite guys. There's some awesome sort of exited or bootstrap founders that really also believe in this. And so they've been, really great with, funding us in the early days as well as helping support us.
Yeah, it's great. Validates the business model as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's it. And there was a third prong, but now I've forgotten what that was. I
think it sort of overlaps, or sort of who supported you along the way, but I think probably overlaps.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, and so those sort of equity investors, are they sounding boards for you along the way? Is someone you can call for advice? Is that sort of the logic?
Definitely. I mean, Matt talks to Rowan Simpson. He's one of our biggest investors, and Matt talks to him all the time. Like whenever we get to a sort of a crossroads, Matt will get on the phone to Ron and just thrash it out. And so yeah, and there's a lot. Like we've got over 100 investors in Tractor, and so we'll often talk to them and get different points of view for sure.
Yeah. Fair enough. I think that's the 3 prongs now.
Yes. Sorry, what was that now?
The next one was, what do you do differently and why?
Yeah.
Which I think you've explained to a degree, but maybe there's a couple of little punch lines around that question as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think we try and do everything differently at Tractor. We really want to do things differently. So, like, we introduced a 4-day work week pretty early on, and we've maintained that, and that is a big part of what we believe in as far as balance in life. And we're smashing our goals, and we're extremely productive. So it's definitely working well. We just our sales team have 0 commission. We just killed all of our commission plans, and they just get paid full. Their full on-target earnings salaries, and so we're all incentivized equally as a team, whether we're sales or not. And we just want to help unlock founders. So we just try and be very much in the mindset of what do our founders need. So yeah.
One thing I've noticed, I'm on your distribution list, and I've noticed the emails that come through.
Yeah.
There's always pretty pictures and tractors and colours and all sorts of things. So I think whoever's doing that's definitely doing a good job.
Yeah, that's Gary Williams. He's our chief engagement man, and he does an excellent job. And one of our core values is to always be having fun and laughing. So we want to be able to project that and give that spark of colour and lightness to everyone. So thanks for that.
Which is good. Now, and part of the podcast obviously is grow your wealth, and one way is doing it as an entrepreneur. Yeah. But what I'd be interested in is from a personal perspective, what have you seen as your best investment across time, and what's been your worst investment across time, and what did you learn from both of those things?
Yeah, so I think I bought some Macquarie Bank shares in the GFC.
Yeah, gotcha. That's great.
I actually went pretty hard on that, actually. Yeah. So I was happy with that. And I think the lesson there is that you do need to take a risk. Like that was a risky, scary time, right? Like a bank's going to survive, and that's why the price was so low.
Sure.
But if you, I think so. You've got to take a little bit of risk, so that worked well. Wow. Probably the worst one was only last year, I think. I invested in a startup that IPO'd and had an excellent listing valuation and then tanked. And so my lesson there was just, there's obviously 2 very different things that go on.
Yeah,
what's going up in value in the startup world doesn't necessarily translate into public markets.
That's good. I remember Macquarie at that time. I was working in banking, and there was definitely talk about would they exist.
Yeah.
So you definitely do understand risk, which is good. And then the hardest thing as well is exiting. Right, hardest thing, if particularly listed shares.
Yeah.
If you've had a gain, and I think it's easy to know when to buy. It's very hard to know when to sell. So,
in this case, I just bought I bought at the listing. That was the problem. But I bought earlier on because it just tanked straight after the listing. So, I now probably treat them quite separately. Public companies.
So I understand. Now, what character traits and qualities do you look for in an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing is just that real connection to the problem, because this is a roller coaster ride, to say the least. It's hard. And so, there has to be that strong passion and motivation to get through all the tough times and see it through.
Yep.
And then, kind of resilience is another thing. Founders that impress us are, also pretty savvy on all their numbers and metrics. They sort of know what's working, their cost of acquisition and their lifetime value and those sorts of metrics that drive their business. We're always impressed with that.
Hey, if you're enjoying this, please leave a review. It's really important to us. We're trying to build momentum around education, and better reviews will get more people coming and listening.
Now, there's a bit more on the personal side again, and I know a lot of the sort of the charity and working with universities and various things. What legacy are you living and leaving?
Yes, I'm very passionate about And this comes from my own kind of childhood experience, just finding my own financial independence. And I realised at a point that no one taught me about money. So no one at school, no one at uni, not my parents. I decided I need to learn about money. So I went and did a master's in financial management. Now that's an extreme case.
Yeah, it's great.
but I really have a passion to help other girls and women find financial independence. So I do a lot of stuff. I angel investor in women. I mentor at girls' schools. Support a lot of charities in the space, because if women can make more money, then homelessness goes down, domestic violence goes down. There's a whole lot of sort of effects, and also women will more likely than men invest in their communities. That's
For sure.
Yeah.
Is there any, on that topic, if you were to give some advice to young women, potential investors, what are 3 things, advice that you'd give them? 3 steps or 3 points, or can be even one if you like.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me in my experience is I just didn't reach out and get advice
Yeah.
early enough, like I should have, and that would be my advice to my younger self. That would be my advice to anyone. Just go and ask for help. You don't have to solve everything yourself.
Very true.
Yeah, people love helping too. I always used to think that no one's got time, or I'm not, whatever. So I think people actually do love to help. So you should always be asking for it.
Yeah, I agree. And then the education, I think, is the key to lots of things in finance. And the fact you went away and did a master's, which might have been slightly excessive on the study front,
Slightly.
it's still, you're still educating yourself and helping you make the decisions moving forward.
Yeah, for sure.
So, what last question before I go on a few quick fire ones? What do you believe are the keys to success and why?
Yeah, I'm a very strong believer in growth mindset, having that growth mindset and that positive outlook. And it's not easy to maintain every single day. But, it's just if you can be in that space of really believing that you can achieve what you want to achieve, that's probably the most important key, I would say. Communication is another one. I'm trying always to get better at how I communicate with everyone. And so, yeah, I think they're the keys.
Gotcha. I think you mentioned earlier around networking and just your socializing, and that's a way you get better at communicating, right? You're always out there. You can be in awkward situations, but that's how you meet new people, make connections, and sort of how you learn to communicate.
Yeah, and then connections, you grow your opportunities. So I started sort of networking about 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Now I've got a broad network of people, and I get invited to go and talk about what I'm passionate about. And so it can take time, but it definitely pays off.
Yeah, for sure. Now, quick fire questions. It can be one sentence, one word, however you want to run it. What was your first job?
Babysitter.
What was that? Sorry.
Babysitter.
Yeah, cool. Okay, fine. I was going to say it can go as young as you want to go, but yeah, babysitter. Perfect. What's a piece of advice for your younger self?
Seek advice.
Yeah, perfect. What motivates you most as a person?
I think I really want to create something big, create enough wealth that I can share with a community of people.
Gotcha. Perfect. What's the most important skill for building wealth and why?
I think it's that thinking big. I think because time is finite. So if you're going to work on something big.
For sure. Yeah. And if you get halfway there, it's still pretty good.
Yeah.
Great. What's the most important habit for building wealth and why?
I think it's consistency. It's just working at it every single day.
Gotcha. What is your definition of sustainable success and how are you achieving it?
Balance. And my kids are a great forcing function. I can't be working when I'm with them. And I prioritize exercise, downtime, socializing with friends and family, and that fills up my calendar, and therefore that sort of forces also the balance.
Perfect. When you're not working, how do you like to spend your time?
As much of it in nature.
Wow.
So on long walks, especially since COVID, long walks in nature, beach, wherever I can get that's in nature and with family and friends.
Fair enough. Yeah, up in Sydney at the moment, the weather's amazing, so outside makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What was the biggest mistake people make when it comes to building businesses and why?
I think it comes down to relationship breakdowns. It's either they've chosen the wrong people
Yeah.
to get on the journey, or they're
Yep.
unable to maintain the right relationships. Like a lot of startups fail because co-founders split.
Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, totally understand. And our last question: what's new and next for you?
New and next. Well, we are exploring sort of an equity offer as well at Tractor, and so that's a new big thing. So our debt, we've now funded over $45 million in loans to startups, which is awesome, and thanks to our partners at iPartners.
Yeah.
It's really great and it's growing really well. And now we're just exploring whether there is an opportunity for a new type of equity option in the market. So there's some stuff coming there.
Gotcha. And so for founders that are out there, how do they track down Tractor Ventures?
Well, they can go to our website, tractorventures.com.
Perfect. No, it's good. Really appreciate you making time today, Jodie. I've been loving watching the growth of Tractor Ventures as a business. It's been great working with the team, and I look forward to seeing continued success from you. So appreciate your time and thank you.
Thanks, Travis.
Hey, if you're enjoying this, please leave a review. It's really important to us. We're trying to build momentum around education, and better reviews will get more people coming and listening.